In today's video, I'm going to discuss whether Renault are in or out of Formula 1. Make yourself a drink. I would suggest citron pressy. I don't know whether you pronounce that way, but apparently that's a very refreshing French drink. So let's start with looking at some statistics for the last from 2016 to the current season, which is 2019. So in 2016 they had Kevin Magnussen and Julian Palmer as drivers. They scored 8 points and finished in ninth position. In 2017, they had the most chaotic driver lineups and driver changes, in my opinion, with Nico Hülkenberg, Julian Palmer, and Carlos Sainz, who replaced Julian Palmer after the Japanese Grand Prix, I do believe it was. So that happened under a bit of a cloud, because Julian Palmer was just not delivering, and they brought in Carlos Sainz from Renault. At the time, it was a loan deal from Red Bull, given that Renault was supplying Red Bull with engines. Nevertheless, they scored a total of 57 points and finished in 6th position in the overall championship. In 2018, they had Nico Hülkenberg and Carlos Sainz and had the best season so far with 122 points, and they finished the championship in 4th position. Currently we are in the 2019 season, and they driving with Nico Hülkenberg and Daniel Ricciardo. They've only scored 83 points, and are in 5th position currently in the championship. What is worrying about that is the fact that their customer team, McLaren, is in 4th position in the championship. So McLaren, who is the customer team, is currently beating the works team. But I'm gonna give you my thoughts on that a little bit later on in this video. So Renault entered their first season after acquiring the Lotus team in late 2015 with Julian Palmer and Magnussen. Magnussen scoring on 2 occasions. He scored 6 points in Russia and 1 point in Malaysia. Julian Palmer only scored once in Malaysia, and he only scored 1 point, so he had a terrible season. The 2016 season was a disaster for Renault, but I can't blame the drivers only, as they had nothing to work with, really, taking over very late in 2015 from the Lotus Formula 1 team. But so I can't really blame the drivers on this part, but I will get into more details what I think about the drivers later on in this video. Before the 2017 season had begun, Frederick Vasseur had a disagreement with some of the team personnel, and therefore the team was managed by Jerome Stoll and managing director cerebral because Frederick Vasseur decided to walk away on the 11th of January 2017. Now let's look at an overview of the 2017 season results in total. So as you can see from the graphic below, that Hülkenberg scored the majority of the points with 43 points, and Julian Palmer scored a total of 6 points until he got replaced by Carlos Sainz, who then scored another 6 points at his debut race for Renault at the US Grand Prix. Now I find it interesting when you consider that actually Julian Palmer scored more in the Singapore Grand Prix, which is 8 points, than Carlos Sainz did the rest of the three Grand Prix he raced for Renault. He only scored 6 points. So the cynic might argue, why did he get kicked out? Because he effectively outscored Carlos Sainz. Yes, he did, but don't forget, Carlos Sainz came into the team from Toro Rosso. So I reckon had he started the season with Renault in 2017, he would have scored more than Julian Palmer did. But let me now move you on to what Cerebral said about the situation regarding Palmer's seat before the US Grand Prix. On the 16th of June 2017 at 11:16 a.m. motorsport.com published an article containing an interview with Cyril Abitbel. Here are some quotes regarding Julian Palmer. He said, "No one is safe in F1. Formula 1 is not an environment where anyone can say loudly, 'I'm safe.' To a certain degree, there are two questions. There is Joe and there is a second driver. Right now my focus is on Joe. Joe has to deliver. What would happen then? I don't want to elaborate on that, and even further, who would be stepping in, because that's absolutely not the point for today. The fact is, Joe has a car which is a point-scoring car, and he has to enter into the points full stop. Right now, I feel that's a bit almost unfair to Nico, who has to do a lot. He said the team is clearly very dependent on him. When Nico is out the game, including for reasons beyond his control, like in Monaco when he had his gearbox failure, we struggle to finish in the points despite a number of cars that were also not finishing the race. My opinion on Renault's 2017 season is that they did a lot better, and they clearly had their hopes and all the resources behind one driver, which was Nico Hülkenberg at the time, and I think the fact how they dumped Julian Palmer resembles has a bit of Red Bull likeness behind it, because I think, yes, they needed to get rid of him because he was clearly struggling, especially against Nico Hülkenberg. However, whilst I was making memes and taking the mickey out of Julian Palmer about the fact that he was dumped, I think it was a bit unfair the way that they have done it. Although on the other hand, I can't understand why he didn't fight to keep his seat till the end, because from what I understand, he did have a contract, and it looked as though that he was gonna drive. He was determined to drive for them till the end of his contract, which would have been the end of 2017 anyway, I do believe. In the end, he took a financial settlement, but that brings into that makes me question his commitment to Formula One, because if I was in his position, I wouldn't have taken the financial settlement. And I think his racing career is over now, because I think nobody would take him, unfortunately. But having said that, I think he does an awesome job on BBC Radio 5 Live, and nowadays alongside Jack Nicholls and Jenny Go. But one other thing I want to mention is I find it ironic that Carlos Sainz scored 6 points. Yes, he was only there for the last three races. However, I would have expected a lot more from him. But again, having said that, I think Renault had all their eggs behind Nico Hülkenberg at the time, and they didn't really value Carlos as a driver in the first place. But I will elaborate more on that later on in this video. So let me know what you guys think about Renault's 2017 season in the comments below. If you look at the 2018 results, you can clearly see that it was Hülkenberg's best season, and also Carlos Sainz didn't do such a bad job either, which reflected in their final standing position of 4th place in the championship. I think Renault's comeback in F1 began with the 2018 season. Because they had the best season since they come back, and I think the Hulk had his best season in his whole Formula One career. So that is why I think when one has to evaluate the future, one has to consider that their true comeback came with this season. In 2019, so far, Renault have had a bit of an unfortunate season because they had a lot of ups and downs and a lot of reliability issues, and I think it's really bad or really unfortunate that they are behind their custom team, that is McLaren. But I also think that Daniel Ricciardo had hoped that Renault would be in a better position from what they currently are. I also think that it is very unfair that they axed Nico Hülkenberg. I think yes, they should have kept him. But I'm gonna elaborate that on Now let's look at the future of Renault in Formula 1. And first of all, I've got 3 quotes that I would like to give you, and then I will tell you what I think. Everything will be on the table. That is what Claude Delbos, the new interim CEO of Renault, said. For me, that indicates that a exit of Renault is also on the table, but it also could indicate that they will remain. Now there's a second quote I've got from ex F1 racer Nick Heidfeld, who told Sky Germany, apparently Klaus Delbos is on an Austria course and is not so keen on F1. And then my third quote that I've got is from cerebral, the F1 team boss, who says the new leadership will think about whether this really suits us. Now, my view on it is I've got 2 main reasons, right? Because surely Renault should know whether Formula 1 really suits them or not. Because this is about the second time that they've acquired a Formula 1 team back. So, if it doesn't suit them, then I don't know what happens, right? But the main thing is that they have just announced Pat Fry to join them in 2020. So I don't think Pat Fry would join an F1 team for just 1 season. And why would Renault sign such a highly skilled engineer like Pat Fry if they weren't serious about Formula 1? But anyway, this is just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Cheers for listening. I'm out of here. Bye.